How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athlete Sub Podcast. A lot to talk about this week, and joining me as always to go through it all is Mr. Flexx.
Yes. How we doing, guys?
Yeah, how you doing, Flexx? Good?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad.
Nice one. And like I said in the intro, a lot to talk about this week. I know we've not had a weekly roundup in a while, to be fair. So I guess luckily for us, there's a lot to get stuck into. But I think we've got to start in one place, man. We've got to start with the AFCON final. Senegal crowned African champions for the second time in 4 years. An eventful game, to say the very least. A lot of controversy towards the end of it. But, I mean, where do we begin with that controversy? I mean, Senegal close to walking off, close to forfeiting the match after a decision went against them, actually, from VAR. After they scored a goal in, was it in the 86th minute, I think, or something like that? Or
I think it was a bit later. I think it was literally, closer to the 90, but 86. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, so they had a perfectly valid goal disallowed by the referee, and then a few minutes later, Brahim Diaz gets fouled in the box, and it goes to VAR, and he awarded a penalty. And then from that moment onwards, it was just chaos to the point where the Senegalese team felt as if they were obviously unjustly hard done by, and obviously decided to walk off the pitch. And then later on, they came back, returned, and Brahim Diaz missed the whole penalty. But we'll get into all that stuff in a bit. But in terms of the final itself, I mean, for you, Senegal worthy champions?
100%. I mean, I think even if Morocco would have won it, bar the controversy, if we're just talking purely football and how good the football has been, they would have been deserving champions as well, right? So yeah. I'd say just based on football and playing good football throughout the tournament and being, attractive to watch, being a dominant team, I would say either team would have been just in winning.
Yeah, I agree. I feel as if, it's before the whole sort of controversy happened, there was a few key chances within the game, right? I think Ndiaye had a chance where he had Bono saved from him one-on-one, and obviously Senegal had a couple of chances to win it in the 90 minutes as well. But we've got to go straight to controversy. I mean, that was just madness. I've not seen anything like that in football in a long, long time, perhaps ever, to be fair. And again, Senegal felt as if they were hardly, done by, which they were. I think their goal that they scored should have been allowed. The referee doesn't go to VAR, gives it a foul. A few minutes later, Brahim Diaz gets fouled in the box, and the referee doesn't give it initially, but then he gets told to go to VAR to watch on the monitor, then gives the penalty. I don't know, like, what happened and what was going on? Like, how do you summarize all this up?
When I was watching it, I said I'd walk off. I mean,
we're talking in the game,
I messaged it to you. I said, look, I'd walk off the field, because you can't go from scoring a goal and, okay, the referee blew his whistle early. He knew he had VAR there, so he could have let it ride and then take it to VAR. And then moments later, you go and, you don't blow or anything for a foul that takes place. And it was a foul, right? You can't pull somebody in the box. It was a foul. But, you just can't do that. And throughout the whole tournament, Morocco have been getting the upper hand. Again, being the host nation, I guess that's what kind of happens when you are the host nation. But you would say it's been unfair, some of the decisions they've been getting the whole tournament, right? And this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And it was a not today moment from the Senegal manager by, dragging his team off the pitch. But I feel like they were always going to play on, but the mind games had to start somewhere. And pulling the boys off the pitch, causes all that commotion and disruption to the game, has the penalty taker second guessing, triple guessing, fourth guessing himself, and all of these bits add up to, the very poor penalty that we saw him take, so I feel like it was a strategic play.
It was. I don't know. I remember obviously speaking to you throughout the game, and I remember saying I wouldn't have walked off the pitch. I didn't agree with that, them trying to walk off the pitch, because I felt as if you're forfeiting a game, and everything just got very, very messy. And I get it. I understand the anger. I'm with them. They were hardly done by. It should never have been a penalty, considering what happened in the opposition box a few minutes before that. But walking off the pitch, forfeiting a game, I don't think it would have been a great look, even though they're in the right. But at the same time, you walk off the pitch, that could potentially, have ramifications from FIFA, and subsequently could see them maybe banned from future tournaments, right? Even though they're angry, But I get all of that. But to walk off this pitch and to forfeit, it wouldn't have been the right way to kind of show your anger or frustration there, right? Because
I disagree. Do you know why I disagree? Because when does anything ever get resolved by going to a press conference and saying the referee was poor? In fact, you
no,
end
but
up getting fined.
the ref's embarrassed. Like anyone who watches the game, if Morocco would have won the game and they say he would have scored a penalty, everyone would know. Okay, the referees had a bad game. Morocco, they've been
And
favoured the
guess
whole
what?
tournament.
We would have just moved on.
Yeah.
And we would have just moved on. Do you see what I mean? But the way you hurt people is by literally walking off the pitch.
Yeah.
That's how you hurt people. That's how you disrupt, the usual way of dealing with things, because what we're going to, like I said, we're going to, in the press conference, say the referee was crap, going to get fined for that. So I might as well take the biggest fine because I'm going to get fined anyway. You know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from. If they would have walked off, Morocco would have won the game anyway. Again, they don't walk off. Eventually, they come back. Diaz misses the penalty. They go into extra time. They score a goal. So perhaps maybe not walking off I think they dealt with it the right way. They came back. They proved or fought against the injustice with a great goal by Papa Gay. Probably should have scored a second goal in extra time. Yeah. That's the way that you go out and you fight against injustice. But to walk off to forfeit, Morocco would have won the game anyway.
They would have won it anyway. But it would have been a point to prove. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're not going to mug us off like that. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And I don't like to bring this up, but it goes back to the racism thing. You know what I'm saying? Like this, although this is not a racist act or nothing, I'm just saying in relation to walking off the field. If you really want to see change, if something racist, homosexual, whatever the abuse is, you know what I'm saying, walk off the field, because that's when they're going to listen. That's when they're going to do something. But if you go file a report, you're just going to be abused the next time you're out on the pitch.
Now, Flexx, I agree. Listen, I agree. When it comes to the racist abuse, measures like that have to be taken, because without, actions like that, nothing really gets changed. Again, we're still talking about this, 2026. People are still walking out of stadiums, teams are still walking off the pitch, but we still got this issue when it comes to racism. But I mean, to walk off because a decision has not gone your way, I mean, again, I understand why they tried to do it. I'm with them with anger, but it wouldn't have a great.
You scored a perfectly good goal, and then literally moments later, then they go and do that to you. You would feel like it's a setup, like 100%. Like, although dude should not. Again, it is a foul and it is a penalty. I'm not gonna say it's not, because you don't put your arms around someone and bring him to the ground. I mean, he's so silly because he knows VAR exists. So why he was doing that or whatever in the penalty box in such a crucial moment of the game is beyond me. And he should go and thank his God. You know what I'm saying? That his
VAR exists. You're 100% right. So if VAR exists in that scenario, why didn't it exist when Senegal scored a perfectly valid goal? That wasn't even checked.
Because they say he blew his whistle before, and apparently they're not allowed to re-ref the game. So if he blew his whistle, they can't get involved. It's silly, because if a referee blows his whistle and gives a yellow card, VAR can upgrade it to a red. Yeah. So what's the difference here?
Yeah, silly, isn't it? Really, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if the referees made a clear and obvious error, which VAR's brought in to assess, then surely if he's blown his whistle or not, you have to go and say, listen, you might have made a mistake in that instance. Go back and review it with the monitor. And that's what it's there for. But to say the referee's blown his whistle so you can't intervene, I'm sorry, that is bizarre. Because when Brahim Diaz went down, I don't think the referee initially gave a penalty. He was told to go and look at the monitor to review it. So in that instance, why are you telling him to go and look at it, review it in that instance? But moments before that, you're saying, well, you can't because you've blown your whistle. It doesn't make any sense. And this is why I agree. Senegal were perfectly right to be angry as they were. But I just felt in the moment to walk off the pitch and to forfeit the game in that manner, they would have lost anyway. Morocco, regardless of the scenario, would have won. They would have taken a victory. And then, as you said, we just move on from that point. But it was a messy end to the game, which we didn't want to see. But I've got to talk to you about the Panenka from Brahim Diaz. I mean, I'm just looking at it, Flexx. I'm thinking, you know what? Regardless of the situation, what's happened, you've got a chance here now. You've got a spot kick to help Morocco win an African Cup for the first time in God knows how many years, And you attempt a Panenka. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, you're a madman. You're a lunatic to try and attempt that in the 100 of whatever minute. You're doing a Panenka it's honestly, it's madness. I couldn't believe what I saw. to be
He
honest.
was rattled, man. He was rattled. Trust me. Like his mind was all over the place. Like he could have gone with a firm shot into a corner, whatever. He would have missed. He was never scoring. His mind was done.
Flex, look, even if you're rattled, even if your mind games have put you off, we go back to penalty we speak out all the time. Asamoah Gyan missing against Uruguay. He smashed it and hit the bar. I'll forgive you for hitting the bar. You've gone with a genuine attempt to smash it, to try and, but you're attempting a Panenka. Panenka's, when they get done in the 20th minute, everyone goes mad, and you're doing it in the 100 and whatever minute when games, like seriously, a Panenka in that moment,
Last kick of the game.
honestly, it's madness. It was madness. And, you watch him here with his, golden shoe award for the top scorer. I'm thinking, well, I just, do you know what? It's weird because I said it briefly, and I think people said it as well, that there might have been a scenario where did he miss it on purpose? Was he, did he feel a bit guilty for what happened and you want to, because it didn't make sense, Flexx.
Nah, you don't feel guilty, man, because you still have a job to do. You're not the one who gave the penalty. You see what I mean? So you just have to do your job in dispatch, and unfortunately he was just being too clever. And it's all part of the mind games. He had too much time to think. And that's always a bad thing when it comes to penalties, So I feel like in that scenario, he's not experienced enough to deal with those high pressured moments. I felt like maybe a more experienced player should have stepped up to take that penalty because of the scenario it was in, So it's one of those things. I would say justice served, at least that way it went on to extra time at 0-0, and we go from there, So for me, he tried to take the mick, and it just didn't go the way it was.
I part of me thinks, will he ever get over that? Because again, we're talking about the conditions of your penalty right now. It's the last kick of the game. Your country's been trying to get an African Cup for years, right? And you've got 50 years, and you've been a player of the tournament. You scored the most goals, and rightly deserved. You get that golden boot. But for you to then almost take the mickey in a way and kind of not even attempt, it felt as if he didn't take it seriously, which is, I think, for the Moroccan fans would be very disappointing because, again, you don't attempt a Panenka. When you do that in the 10th minute, everyone goes crazy thinking, what's he doing? Like, why are you doing a Panenka? You're doing it with the trophy on the line for your country after all these years. I mean, he's going to take it a lot.
Literally the last kick.
It's madness, honestly. But you're right, I agree with you. I think Senegal were fantastic. An extra time, they came back and they fought back in the right way. A great goal by Papagay, no chance for the goalkeeper, and well-deserved winners for sure. And I guess, Sadio Mane, he bows out from Senegal with an AFCON title, 2 in 4 years, I think a lot of people sleep on that as well. 2 AFCONs in 4 years is a great achievement. And I actually remember in the last AFCON that they won, he scored the winning penalty.
That's right. That's right.
I think did he miss a penalty in that game as well?
He missed in the game and then scored in the
and he comes back and he gets the winner, and that says everything you need to know about Sadio Mane. A fantastic player in the last decade. I mean, how would you summarize his time with the Senegal national team?
I mean, what can you say? Like, there's so many superlatives that you could throw at his time there, and he's definitely been a pillar for Senegalese football, and for those coming through the ranks. You can see even players that kind of have his style, like Sarr, and others, So look, he's been amazing. He's won the AFCON twice, which is more than what some can say throughout their careers. And he can bow out now, as one of those guys that came, saw, and conquered. Done his thing. So. Whatever he moves on to next, which is, of course, probably trying to win something with his Saudi club and, continue to make African football great by investing in the academies and all of these things that he's got going on. And yeah, man, we tip our hat off to him. He's won it all, and, he's literally, I feel like, a player like him, it's a shame that, the Ballon d'Or and these things, maybe won't come calling, but with this win, I hope he's seen as probably, at least in this dispensation, to win the African Player of the Year. I know Lookman won it last time, but 2 AFCONs, and a retirement. I think his name should be there to win it this time, man.
No, I agree with you. I think, again, like I said before, I think people sleep on the fact he's won 2 AFCONs and he's been instrumental in winning those AFCONs
Yeah.
in those tournaments as well. And again, you're right. His CV is amazing. He's won it all. He's won the Premier League, the Champions League. He's won obviously 2 AFCONs. He's won the Bundesliga as well. He's got a great CV, Sadio Mane. And I think, again, I agree with you when it comes to the Ballon d'Or chat, which we've spoken about before. It feels as if players like him and Mohamed Salah, they're not really being considered when they should be. And look at what they've achieved as an individual and also as part of a collective, and them two being integral in their teams. By the way, you kind of scratch your head as to wondering why they've not been considered for a Ballon d'Or before. But who knows? Maybe this might change it. He's bowed out in a perfect way. He's gone to Moroccan soil and he's won the AFCON.
Yeah,
there's not a better way to head out. But okay, cool. Let's move on to some Premier League action.
Premier League.
I had a great weekend. Not sure about yourself.
No, we did all right.
Chelsea won 2-0. Yeah, he won 2-0. So I guess it's a good weekend for you as well. But Michael Carrick getting his first win as an interim head coach at United. And do you know what, Flexx? I really enjoyed the game. This is the first time in a long time that I've actually enjoyed watching United. It wasn't the fact that they won the game, but it was the style of play. It was the intensity, the speed. All aspects of the game were perfect, in my opinion. And I think if that's the blueprint for what Carrick is going to try to install in his team going forward this season, and I think United have got a very good chance to win trophies this year. And I think from minute one, City, didn't have answers, to be fair. I think Dorgu was fantastic, Ahmad was great, and Boomer was running. Bruno, brilliant again. Casemiro was great, should have scored. Mainu also was very good, and Martinez was outstanding as well. It was almost, again, a near-perfect performance from Carrick. What did you think about the game? Did you watch it, or...?
Hey, look, I mean, I was telling some of the lads that United look like the old United. They look like the old United, and it's good to see. And it's also interesting to see how a change of management, all of a sudden, people want to act right and people want to play football. That's always interesting when that happens, right? But, I always felt like United would win this game regardless, because United do show up in the bigger games that they have to play in. And it's just more so a case of, can they, deal with the smaller teams and can they get up for it? It's more of a case of, can you get up for it when you play against a smaller team? So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. The press looked amazing. The desire and passion seemed to be there. And, they were looking for each other, playing triangles, passing and moving effectively, trusting each other with the ball, all of these different things. Lisandro Martinez looked, immense, on the day. Some of his tackles and his passing range was a joy to behold. Maguire was Maguire again, like the confidence was there, and then looking at Kobe, back in the side, why was he ever left out of the side? All of these questions to be answered. But I guess it doesn't matter because Manchester is red for the time being. And, we'll see how it all looks in the next game. Can that hunger and that desire be there? Can they keep it going? Because we all do know that you have a great squad. It's not like you have a bad squad. The squad is there. But now playing in a system, I guess, that fits everyone in the squad, we will start seeing results. I mean, Dorgu, I hear a lot of your fans previously talking a lot of crap about him.
Yeah.
But the players, I've always felt that he gives a 5 or 6 out of 10. Like, it's just unfortunate that he was playing in a system that didn't quite work for everybody, not just him. And all of a sudden...
That's the thing, Flexx. I said in my reviews when Amram got sacked and, Fletcher came and I said that one thing you'll get from Carrick or Fletcher in that time is that they're going to simplify things. They'll play to play strengths. They'll go back to basics. And again, I think the game was perfect for United because United really, they sat in and then they used the pace on the break. Ahmad, Dorgu, Bruno and Boomer, right? That was the game plan. That was what they did. And it was perfect for them. And again, they've got Arsenal on Sunday. I think that's another great game for the team because what they'll do is they sit back, they'll soak in pressure, and the likes of Dorgu, Ahmad, and Boomer will provide the pace and they'll provide the attacking threat. And that's essentially what probably the biggest strength of the team is, really, to be fair. And you mentioned the teams that come to Old Trafford that you're meant to beat. Can this team really get up for it? Can they make a difference? And those are the games we're going to see if they've got something in a locker to unlock these teams and actually put pressure and actually win games, right? So the game against City was almost perfect because they weren't expected to win. They'll just, again, sit back, counter-attack, biggest strength, like it was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer years ago. But again, Carrick simplified things, and that's what we've been asking for. Place-to-player strength. As you mentioned, mainly, why was he ever left out the side? We know what he can do. If he's got Casemiro next to him, let him, let him play, let him get on the ball, let him make a difference, and he was great. He was outstanding. Again, Martinez come back from injury, Maguire back from injury, first game back, and he was outstanding. Do you know what I mean? So football sometimes is not complicated, Flex. Sometimes you've got to know what you've got at your disposal, play to their strengths. Do you know what I mean? And then just go from there. I thought again, Amorim, it didn't work out. But I said, listen, if Carrick comes in or Fletcher comes in, they'll simplify things and play to player strengths. And that's what you've got to do sometimes. And that's why you saw a great performance. You're right. Next few weeks, let's see if they'll carry on.
Let's see.
So to carry on, man. But listen, from a good week good weekend for United, it's been a bad week for Crystal Palace. Oliver Glasner announced on Friday that he'll be leaving Palace at the end of the season. And then also on the same day, Mark Gahey was confirmed to go to Manchester City.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a really good 2025 for Palace, where they won, the FA Cup, won the Community Shield, got into Europe. Glasner created a fantastic football team. And then, in the space of 2-3 months, things change. They lose Eze. I think they lose their appeal against UEFA to be in Europe, I believe, or the Europa League. And now they're losing their manager and losing their captain. And Glasner came out after the Sunderland match and said that he felt as if he was being abandoned, really, because he lost his captain. The transfer window didn't really go out and purchase anyone to replace either,
That's right.
Eze or Mark Gahey. So, what have you made of what's gone on at Palace? What have you made of all of it?
I mean, it's hard to say, because I would say probably you have a manager whose ambitions are bigger than the club, and this is where these problems come in. Whereas the manager's looking to, kick on from winning an FA Cup and maybe win the Conference League and so on and so forth. The Palace board, they're more looking at their balance sheet as opposed to winning trophies, which is fair enough. You are where you are, as a club. And so I understand his grievance, because of course for him, he's thinking, look, we've got a game in a couple of days, and you sell not just a player, but our captain and one of our best, I wouldn't even say just centre backs, but one of our best players, period. And we've been all week preparing with this player, and then you sell him with like 48 hours to go. That's crazy. But then Palace had this scenario last season, right? Last summer, where they basically had the option to sell him for 70 odd, and they said no. And they should have sold him for 70 odd around that time. Now you've broken even on, I think they bought him from Chelsea for 20 odd million, and now they've sold him for 20 odd million. And now you don't really have an adequate replacement. So I can get the manager's frustrations, where it's basically, hey, you know what? Your ambitions ain't big enough, so I'm not going to renew my contract too. So
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think Glasner's worked wonders with Palace. That's for sure. Again, they won the FA Cup. They were one of the best teams in the league towards the end of last season. I think they went a few months unbeaten, actually. And that testament to what Glasner's done. Mateta was on fire.
Yeah.
Eze before he left was on fire as well. Walton's been great in there. Mitchell's been great. Sarr, Jordan has been also very, very key in their success. But you look at it from Palace's point of view, and you mentioned about last season they could have sold him for £70 million, and that would have been an absolute profit on Palace's part. But you're looking at it from a player who's got 6 months on his contract left. He can go in the summer for free. If they don't sell him now, they could lose their captain and one of their best players on the free in the summer. So from the club's perspective, they're probably thinking, well, we can't wait to kind of get this deal done. We need to cash in now, right, and get something for the player, because if he goes on the free, he can go to Liverpool, City, wherever he wants on the free, and that's your captain. So for the club's perspective, they're probably thinking, well, we can't let this happen. We've got to get something for him. It's unfortunate for Glasner that it's happened now, but it was always going to happen, Flex. If it didn't happen last week, it would happen next week or the week after. So that was always going to happen. But that's what the job is at Palace. You're not going to compete for the Champions League. You're going to develop players like they've done, like Zaha, Eze, and you sell them on. That's what they do. That's part of the model. So if you're a top manager and you're looking to build on success, and Glasner's been fantastic, he's built the success. He's given a lot of Palace fans their best ever year last year. But you have to realise that you're developing players. Walton will leave in the summer. That's a fact. Mateta will go. You're developing players who will get sold on, and that's part of the job. So for him to come out and say that he's been abandoned and stuff, well, this is what you signed up for. They're not a massive club. Palace are a big club, obviously in London, but not a massive club, not going to compete for the Champions League. You know, they're going to develop players and they'll sell them
But
up. So
but that was his hopes. Can we qualify for a European position? Can we, somewhat build on top of what we did last season? And you don't go from selling Olise, Eze, Guehi. Now you've mentioned Mateta, Wharton, even Lacroix. They're right back, Munoz, like all of these players, Mitchell, Henderson. There's a lot of players, that will be getting sold off, piece by piece, right? He looks like a really good player, So I mean, look, like you said, it's the model. It is what it is, and hey, maybe Glasner comes in at United. Who knows?
I mean, I don't think I'd be in favour. I don't. He's not a bad manager, Glasner, but I just feel as if he flourished with the threat at the back. He played it to perfection, really, at Palace. He had the players to do it, but I just feel as if all the controversy we've had over that system in the past year, I just can't see them accepting someone who plays that system, regardless of whether he's a good manager or not. But yeah, again, with Glasner, he's a great coach, but I just feel as if and this is where you maybe look at the likes of Roy Hodgson and realise what a great job he did for so long there. Keeping it stable, keeping them afloat. The football wasn't great, but he kept it in the Premier League. And as you mentioned, if all those players leave in the summer, right, Palace, if they don't get a good manager in next season, could easily be contender for relegation.
Yeah,
it could happen. It could happen, right? So
it could happen.
Do you know what I mean? So that's key. Who they get in next? But listen, go to your boy now, Antoine Semenyo, who's joining Man City. Looks like he will be a teammate of Mark Gahey's now that Gahey's close to completing his move to City.
Yes, sir, man. We're getting the Bible crew together, the Christian.
Yeah, as well, yeah.
Set, man. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a massive difference, You're like, people joke with it, you know what I'm saying? But trust me, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of that, it makes a huge difference. Like, for me personally, I don't believe Palace win it without, those Christians in the team winning the FA Cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just don't think it's possible. You know what I'm saying? Because that faith and that belief, it's beyond football. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that makes a difference. But anyway, we digress. Yeah, let's get.
You're right, man. Listen, you're right. I think let's give it a moment. Actually, I think faith. We've seen it with a lot of footballers over the years. We've seen obviously the famous Kaka shirt, "I belong to Jesus." Faith is a big part for a lot of footballers. Do you know what I mean? And it's nice to see them so open about it as well, right? Because we talk about football, we talk about the lifestyle, the material possessions you get as a result of having a career in football. But it seems as if these young men are, dedicated to their religion and their beliefs, and they're not afraid to show that and not afraid to speak out about it, which is very refreshing and nice to see. Do you know what I mean?
It is, because it's beyond football, man. You know what I mean? I feel like when you look at a lot of these guys, where they came from, especially probably some of them shouldn't even be as far as they've got to. You know what I mean? Whether it's because of talent, whether it's because people overlook them, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of, the opportunity just never popping up at the right time, it's their faith and their belief that just keeps them together and, keeps them pushing through those tough moments. And when you're a team like Palace, going up against giants like Manchester City, who have all the resources, that's a David versus Goliath scenario. You see what I mean? Like, and in those scenarios, you would always expect Goliath to win. But, David found a way, and in that moment found a way, through, those type of players that, have that type of faith, that they can win, against these big boys and these big teams. So, yeah, man, it's good to see that another Christian, joins the camp at Man City. And, we need that because we can't have Arsenal winning the league. We can't have Arsenal winning the league. And I know that they've got some, faith-based players, on their side as well. So
it's going to be a very fierce battle, isn't it? It's going to be in the spirit, isn't it? It's going to be a very fierce battle in the spirit for sure, man. But I think you look at City. Listen, they've signed Semenyo in January. They're going to sign Gahey as well. A lot of people are going to ask though, what is going on with these charges that they're facing? Because they're still spending money, and people are thinking, well, they've managed to spend 60 million on Semenyo. And 20 million is a steal on Gahey, but they spent almost 90 million pounds in January. Like, how are they still spending this money when they're supposedly facing charges?
When you got all this money, you can keep deferring your charges. That's how that works. That's how it works. The charges don't go away, but you have enough money to keep them in deference, and that's
But
just what it is.
when are we going to get some sort of conclusion towards this? Because it's been months now. It's been almost over a year, and we've not heard any
The truth
significant
is,
development.
is as long as they can keep paying these high paid lawyers, to keep finding loopholes, to keep finding holes in the case that the Premier League would have against them, it'll keep getting deferred, and to a point where it gets dropped because if there is good loopholes that do come about, and the Premier League is actually maybe they don't have it 100% in terms of what they're charging them on, it could be reversed, and then now the Premier League is being sued by Manchester City, and they don't want to lose that kind of money, to a club, and they don't want that precedence to be set. So what I suspect will happen is that it will probably be thrown out, and it will be just settled probably behind closed doors, one of those undisclosed settlements that nobody really knows what went on in the background, and everyone moves on. It's a shame because teams like this, if they are cheating and have been cheating, they should feel the full force of the law. But when you have all of this money, unfortunately, that's just how it goes.
I think to bring these amount of how many charges was it? But do you know the exact number of charges?
100 and something. It was like over 115 or something.
Yeah, if you're bringing that many charges, right, there must be some sort of significant evidence to base your charges upon, right? So to then say, well, we're going to throw it out, it would be disappointing for me because, listen, regardless of who you support, right, we don't want cheating in football. We want it to be fair for everybody. And this goes back to the Super League introduction they tried to do a couple of years ago. We didn't want that because it wasn't fair on every football club in the country. So if any club is cheating, then he should be called out for it and they should be charged. That's what these bodies are there for, to investigate and to charge when it's appropriate. So because they've got powerful lawyers, no, but if you've committed a crime, right, then you should be charged. I don't see a thing where they settle it. You've made the charges public, over 100 charges, Flexx. Over 100 charges.
It's over,
and you're going to get away scot-free. It's madness. And this is why football is in the position it's in right now.
It is. I mean, look, for me personally, I feel like trying to make it all balanced and fair and whatnot in the long run has made it not fair, because we're talking about teams that have always been able from the beginning use their resources to amass a certain level of wealth in the game. Now, the likes of Newcastle, who have the money, can't do it because of FFP. That's not fair. Do you see what I mean? And then you look at other teams that, like Everton and so on, who could have the money to spend, can't spend it. So for me, I feel like there needs to be another way. Do you see what I mean? Because
and it even goes back to what Emery said. I don't know if he saw his post-match comments last night after the defeat to Everton, but he mentioned that there was 5 teams above them who have more potential than them. I don't think he means on the pitch because Villa have done great, but he's probably talking about the spending power these clubs have got.
Resources, man. It's the resources. Look, Man City in the January window have gone out and strengthened beyond what is normal.
To keep January, almost £90 million in January.
In January, like, you can't go and ask Newcastle.
And you're supposedly facing these charges. Listen, your club had a transfer ban, right? Man City have had all these charges, but there's been no transfer ban. There's been nothing on, no sanctions imposed yet. We're still waiting to see the outcome of charges. Come on, like, what is going on?
Like, that's just crazy. How it goes, man. That's just how it goes. That's it's a reflection on life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, when you look at that, it's a reflection on life. Those who have the resources will stay out of prison. Those that don't will be imprisoned. That's just how it goes.
Crazy. But what do you think about Pep Guardiola? There's been talk about him this season, maybe been his last season. He's approaching 10 years at Man City. He's been phenomenal in the Premier League era. Do you think this could potentially be his last season there?
Mate, the greatest to ever do it. Just saying. And look, man, if it is, he's just going to go and, be the greatest ever international manager we've ever seen. You know what I mean? So I think
you can manage it, because I know he's Catalonian, right? So he won't manage Spain, I'm guessing.
No, he won't manage Spain, but he can easily go and do a madness with Brazil. He can easily, he could even be the England manager for all we know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he likes it here that much. But look, he did say in an interview, I think one of the reporters asked him, what's your secret to success and longevity here at City? And he just said winning. No, he said winning. He said winning. He said money. He said money. He said winning.
No, I agree with you. Pep, for me, Pep and Alex Ferguson are the greatest in the Premier League era, like by none. Like, those two are standouts for me. So I feel like he's one of the greatest managers to ever live. People say, "Oh, he spent money, he's done this." But what great manager has not had a luxury to to deal with, right? Everyone spends money, but you still got to win, right? You still got to construct a team that plays beautiful football that we've seen him play. His teams, by far, have played the best football I've seen in the Premier League era by far. He's built numerous teams. He's got only managers to get 100 points in the Premier League era.
Yeah.
He's won everything there is to win it in domestic and club and European football.
Yeah.
The guy's, he's essentially revolutionized football. He's defined an era of a generation of football, the way everyone plays. He's influenced every team around the world to play like how his teams play. If that's not a great manager, one of the greatest ever, I don't know what is. So, phenomenal manager for me. Pep's, again, him and Ferguson, for me, that's two standouts in the Premier League era.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Mourinho would have something to say about that.
Mourinho's a great coach, but I'm looking at the longevity, how many titles they've won, how many teams him and Ferguson have built in their time at their respective clubs.
I agree with you.
Mourinho's a great manager. For me, if I'm building a Mount Rushmore of managers, I've got Alex Ferguson on there, I've got Pep, I've got Mourinho, and I've got Ancelotti. Those are my four, Mount Rushmore. But in the Premier League era, Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola, for the longevity and what they've won and how consistent their teams have been, them two are standouts for me.
I agree, and can't say any more to that than that, and I feel like even if it is his last season, he's done it all, he's won it all, he's a legend, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. I feel like I mentioned this before, some of the signings City have made maybe are not your quintessential Pep Guardiola signings, and they're more club signings. And so maybe that does spell like maybe the transition, because they're making signings for the club as opposed to the manager, and that could just mean because there could be someone else coming in. And Man City are usually really good at paving the way for their successors. So it'll be interesting to see who they actually do get in next. At City. Could it be a Xabi Alonso? Could it be a Glasner?
Even Maresca. It might be Ruben Amorim. You never know.
Could be Amorim. He comes back, and does something crazy. And it'll be interesting. I'd love for him to stay one more year. Just to see how it all plays out. Just one more time, see if he can really rebuild it. And but yeah. Great manager.
If he somehow wins the Premier League this season, I'm sorry, but Arsenal. Listen, that's another conversation, man. Let's move on.
That is another conversation.
If that happens, that is going to be a crazy thing. But listen, to finish off, Tottenham Hotspur. I did a podcast with my cousin TC last week. So if you guys have not watched it, please go ahead and watch that interview. It's all about Tottenham. Thank you. And we spoke about Thomas Frank and his tenure at Tottenham so far. And listen, another loss to West Ham at home. And I don't know, it's weird. Listen, I think them losing to West Ham at home, for me, kind of put the nail in the coffin, because, listen, West Ham are not great. They lost to Wolves, right? They couldn't beat Forest. For them to lose at home to West Ham just told me how bad things are at Tottenham. Do you think he'll get sacked, Thomas Frank?
Man, he's lucky that he's not already sacked. But the problem they're having is who could they get to replace him? Because there isn't a big line of people queuing up to go and manage Tottenham. And I think that's the position they find themselves in. But at the same time...
Do you think Pochettino will come back after the World Cup?
If they could wait, it's possible. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes it gets bad before it gets, better. And Arsenal went through that same transitional period where it wasn't so great, but look at where they are now. He's not a bad manager or coach, whatever title he's got. I feel like it's just a shame that we, in football, have the microwave mentality, and we're not looking for that longevity where players have to buy into the system, and if they don't, we have to have a few transfer windows to get in players that would buy in and fit into the system. So look, Tottenham, let's be honest, besides winning the Europa League, you don't usually win anything. You're just there to add pressure to those that are winning, and it's one of those things where I feel like give it a few more years and then reassess the situation and see where we are. You've just lost your chair. Was Levy the chairman?
He's chairman, he was chairman, yeah.
So you lost your chairman. Directors of football and whatnot has changed quite frequently over there at Tottenham. So from a hierarchy perspective, they're looking a little like Man United, where it's a bit all over the gaff. And so it's a little bit more challenging for those underneath that pyramid to get things going. So I think take time. He's not a bad manager. He's done well at Brentford. Let's see what he does with another window. In the summer, because they've got a good team. It's not like they have a bad team. They've got a good team. There will be players that do leave, like Romero. Who I think will be gone. Richarlison, I think, will be gone, and they will be, like the Bentancurs or one that they'll be gone. Then we see what he can do and rebuild from that perspective. But yeah, he can't.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I said to Tito, I was like, listen, I get the point of we need to be patient with managers. And again, managers need a good amount of time to really get their ideas across and to get their philosophies and just to get their day-to-day workings familiar with the squad they're working with. But I'm just thinking, well, they did spend £200 million in the summer and they've got injuries. I understand that. But the board will not be sitting there in January, almost in February, and thinking, well, we're 14th, 15th in the league. We lost to West Ham at home. We can't win at home, by the way. And that's not all down to Frank, because Ange was a big part of that problem as well. But they're probably looking and thinking, well, we can't be in this position in January. We just can't. Regardless of the injuries we've got, we should be in the top 10 at least, right? Because Solanke's come back. Conor Gallagher's been signed now as well. Romero's there. The spine of the team is still there. Kulusevski's missing, Kudus is missing, but they shouldn't be losing to West Ham at home. West Ham are not a very good side, Flexx. They're not a very good side. Mm-hmm. For them to come score a last-minute winner, and Callum Wilson, of all people, who I thought left the club, by the way.
Yeah, he was on his way out. He's on his way out.
A parting gift from Wilson there. Do you know what I mean? Like, that sums it up from Tottenham. So I agree. Frank's not a bad manager. He's a good manager. I've done well with Brentford, but the board will be sitting there thinking, well, we get you've got injuries like other managers have, and they've got to deal with it. But we shouldn't be 14th in the Premier League in January, and that's where I feel as if they might.
Crazy? Why shouldn't you be 14th? Where did you finish last season? Like, why shouldn't you be 14th?
Yeah,
No,
but the thing is, they strengthened in a way. They spent a lot of money in the summer. £200 million is not a small amount of money, by the way.
No, spending money don't mean you're strengthened.
Okay, but the squad is their team. Is their team? Is it a team that should be 14th?
No, it's not by name. It's not a team that should be 14th. But we also know football is not just a game based on names. Can those names play together? Can those names, actually cohesively put together a performance that is worthy of 3 points week in, week out?
That's the manager's job, Flexx, to do that, to create that.
But it takes time. This is what I'm saying.
I agree it takes time, but they wouldn't have thought they would be in a position they are in now. Just like every manager, I thought for managers to get long-term progression, like it was with Amorim, results determine that, Flexx. I'm not saying that Frank's a bad manager or he shouldn't be given time. I'm not saying that. I'm for managers being given time, because you can't. What can you do in a year? You have to be given time to do things, right? But football's different now. They won't give you time. Like, if you're not getting results and they're invested in the squad, right, and your job is, as you said, to create a cohesive team that gets 3 points, and you're not doing that on a regular basis, then you won't get time. That's just how it is. I'm not saying that's good, but that's just where we are right now.
You're right. It's where we are. And I can't even say much to that, because that's just the facts. It's where we are, and if you're not managing, I don't know, a Burnley or whatever, where much is not expected of you, then that's the only time where you actually are given some grace, as a manager, to keep going and whatnot. But for one reason or the other, again, I feel like Tottenham I think they're operating, or their mindsets are above their station.
I agree.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. That's a good place to finish off. So Tottenham fans, let us know in the comments. You're operating above your stations, guys, man. You won Europa League in forever? Come on.
That's it. It's
Give Frank a bit of time, man. Give Frank a bit of time. But Flexx, it's been great as always to tuck into all the latest news. And guys, as always, like, subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate all your support. We're on TikTok now as well, so follow us on TikTok, Instagram. As always, we love your comments. Keep them coming through. And Flexx, I will see you in the next one.
Yes, sir. Gittins on the next one.
Trying to bar as well.